anything party. Think Party Karate. And as Party Karate, we provide you with nothing but the best services that you can rely on. Leave all your party management and all your corporate events in our hands today. Our wide range of products include helium balloons, toys, candy gifts, jumping castles, candy floss, popcorn machines, stretch tents, and just to mention a few. Visit us today. Anything party, think party, karate.
We are committed to creating and sharing knowledge that empowers children and young people to understand the steps they can take to reduce their risks, increase their resilience to mental health problems, and improve their mental health.
Our vision is to create a world with a sound mental health for all.
People do attempt suicide.
Naturally, people are born to judge. But judging and expressing the judgment is something that we can preserve for ourselves.
We find that suicide bereavement is even more difficult than losing someone through natural death.
Be empathetic in the way you approach their situation. Because if you show too much sympathy, they will also start feeling guilty.
Greetings to you all. Welcome to our show, Tap In. The churches, they don't bury the person who committed suicide properly.
Our business is not to judge people, Tawanda. Our business is not to judge people. Our business is to serve people. And according to scripture, everybody deserves a decent burial. You've got an angry soul. You've got a bleeding soul. So all you are seeing now is a manifestation of the condition of the soul. And unfortunately, the soul has got nothing to do with you are apostle, you are reverend, you are prophet, you are bishop, you are whatever. If your soul is vexed, the soul can affect, both the spirit and the body.
We found ourselves in spaces where we are locked up in a very restricted space. The claustrophobia sets in, the issue of uncertainty sets in. When is life going to get back to normal? When am I going to do what I wanted to do?
There's an article by Bulawayo 24 News, which is German minister kills himself over coronavirus crisis worries. So I picked this story to indicate that it's not a thing that is confined to Zimbabwe, but it's a global issue where when people fail to cope with coronavirus, they may even find themselves trying to get away through committing suicide.
Greeting to you all. Welcome to our show, Tap In. My name is Tawanda Mrepa. In today's episode, we are talking about suicide and COVID-19. And we have Dr. Madzivire on the standby. She will lead us into the discussion. So welcome, Dr. Madzivire.
Thank you so much, Tawanda.
Thank you. Can you please introduce yourself?
Okay, I am Dr. Shamiso Christine Madzivire. I am a lecturer at the Sociology Department of Midland State University.
Okay, it's great. So today we are going to discuss about suicide and COVID-19. We understand suicide actually increased during the COVID-19 era. So we want to discuss more about suicide and COVID-19. And I'm going to ask you a question regarding to masculinity of masculinity, suicide, and COVID-19. What do you understand in regard to masculinity, suicide, and COVID-19? We understand there's an increase of suicide rates during COVID-19, and there's also an issue to do with masculinity. So can you explain those views? What do you understand in regard to those views?
Okay, so I'm going to split them up and then bring them back together.
It's okay.
Okay. So if we are talking about COVID-19, the effect on society, and also bringing in the issue of masculinity, I am going to look at the two different things separately first, and I'll bring them back together. So if we're looking at the increase in mental health issues, things like suicide, things like depression, in the context where we currently find ourselves of the COVID-19 pandemic, I think it's a result of all the stresses that actually exist in our various environments. So for the first time in my entire life, and I'm sure the lives of many other people, we found ourselves in spaces where we are locked up in a very restricted space. So you are either living by yourself or you are living with family, you are living with friends, for example, and we are not used to being in a situation where we are together all the time, all day, every day in the context of lockdown. So in situations like that, you might find that here people start feeling very closed up. So the claustrophobia sets in, the issue of uncertainty sets in. When is life going to get back to normal? When am I going to do what I wanted to do this year? My plans? What is the impact of COVID-19 on all of that? So things like that cause a lot of stress for individuals, and that's not only adults, but also children who find themselves in a space where they're not used to being. They're used to going to school every day, but now they don't see their friends, they can't play outside, they are cooped up in the house. There's all that energy and nowhere for it to go. So it's a very stressful situation. And then bringing in the issue of masculinity, I feel like COVID-19 has challenged the way that we view masculinity in a lot of ways. So, for example, here in Zimbabwe, or your typical African / Zimbabwean man, they see themselves as the providers. And I think for women as well and families, they look up to that father figure, to the male in the household as the breadwinner, as the one who takes care of all the needs of the family. So now when you're in a situation where this man, for example, has lost his job, or where he was in the informal sector, he can no longer go out and do the things that he was doing to bring in money for the family. So now where your masculinity is actually linked to provision and your ability to provide, that's definitely going to take a very strong hit, because now I am sitting at home with my children, with my wife. They're looking at me like, Dad, what's happening? Where's the food? Where's the money for us to do online learning? So that's a very stressful situation to be in, where you can't provide for your family, or you're really struggling to provide for your family, and yet that is where you hinge a lot of your identity on as a man. So I think in that sense, that's one of the ways that COVID-19 has had an impact, not only on the general mental and emotional well-being of individuals.
What actions are needed during COVID-19, and during and after COVID-19 in regarding to those issues that you are highlighting? What actions are needed now and after this pandemic?
I think we definitely need a lot of support as far as people's mental and emotional well-being is concerned. So first and foremost would be to destigmatize issues around mental illness. When people think of mental illness, it always comes down to the one aspect, which is kupenga, and yet there's so many different aspects of mental illness, things like your depression, things like anxiety. Those things actually exist, and we have to start as a people acknowledging their presence within our society. And that also puts your everyday individual, your man, your woman, your children, in a space where people can feel free to communicate what they're going through and actually take the next step and get help. Because if I am a man or a woman and I'm going to my partner and I'm saying to them, listen, I feel depressed or I feel anxious, and that person's response is to downplay what I'm feeling or to downplay my experiences, it then affects the likelihood of me going to seek help, because this person has already failed to validate my feelings. Whereas if we're raising awareness around the fact that, listen, depression and anxiety aren't just a white man's illness. they actually also exist within our specific context, then it allows people to be bold, even children, to approach their parents. Because a lot of the times, I'm sure our viewers have seen issues on these memes that have gone around, or short clips, these comedic type clips that have gone around of a young person, for example, going to the mother, to the father, saying, "I'm depressed." And the response from your African parent is hardly ever a positive one. They will say to you in Shona, "Depression ye chi chocho," knock it off, get yourself out of it. So those are the types of thinking patterns that we actually need to break. And I think COVID-19 has had that silver lining, that people are starting to realize that mental health matters and mental health issues exist within our current context. They've always existed, yes, but when you've actually put in the pressures of COVID-19, a lot of people who would have downplayed it, if a friend or a relative came to talk to them about it, actually now have a bit of a better understanding of what happens when one is in stressful situations. And the other thing that we need to do, this now speaks specifically to the issue of masculinity. We need to start rethinking the way that we imagine or masculinity to be. So it shouldn't just be that masculinity is hinged on someone's ability to provide, for example. Can we come up with other factors that we can look at when we're talking of manhood? Other positive descriptions of manhood, so that when someone does find themselves in a situation where they're struggling to provide, they're not ashamed to go and seek help. Because it's also the context at the end of the day. It's not just your issue. You are not the only man in the entire country who is struggling. So men need to be able to step up and ask for help. Men need to be able to support each other. So maybe even as organizations having these support groups for men, where men can come together, they can discuss the challenges that they're facing within their families, or for those who are not married, they can come together even with older men, giving them guidance, just discussing the issues to do with manhood. And I'm a young man, I'm trying to get married, or I'm trying to start my career, but we're in the COVID-19 pandemic. How can I do that? So putting together just those spaces of encouragement and support, I feel would be a very, very, very good thing to do.
Okay, thank you so much.
Anything party, think Party Karate. And as Party Karate, we provide you with nothing but the best services that you can rely on. Leave all your party management and all your corporate events in our hands today. Our wide range of products include helium balloons, toys, candy gifts, jumping castles, candy floss, popcorn machines, stretch tents, and just to mention a few. Visit us today. Anything party, think Party Karate.
Also, in the group discussion that we are having on WhatsApp, we also highlighted the issue to do with some short-term, some short-term means, like improving, maybe giving money or food, ambers to those families who are affected, in order to make sure that everyone is supported and has food to eat and everything that they can need to support themselves. So, yeah, here in Zimbabwe, we find out that a lot of churches were actually giving people food hampers, and also in those developed countries, the government actually, they were actually giving food to everyone to make sure the level of stress is in regarding to what to eat and in regarding to unemployment issue are resolved. Okay, so the next question that I'm going to ask you is about the main reason. What are the main reasons for the increase of suicide rates during COVID-19? What are the main reasons?
I think this also goes back to what I was talking about earlier, about the different stresses that actually exist. So yes, we as humans, we go through various stressful periods in our lives. That's just a part of, being alive, being human. But when you're now in a situation that is way, way, way beyond your control, it's literally the entire world is struggling to get through this. And I think in some ways, some may not agree with me, but I think in some ways Zimbabwe has it a bit better than other regions in the world. Where, for example, I have a friend who is in Canada, and in the province where she's staying, she was saying they're almost hitting a full year where it's a 300 and something days of things being completely shut down. And it's not your Zimbabwean experience where we have a little bit of lockdown, then there's a semblance of normality, because right now we're moving around. Intercity travel is back. Yes, we're being cautious. Yes, we're wearing masks, but there's still a little bit of that freedom. Things have opened up in other areas in the world that actually doesn't exist. The lockdown restrictions keep getting tighter, or they're loosened for a week, then it's back to full lockdown. You're in your house, period. They monitor your movement within that certain radius. So these are unprecedented times. It sounds like a cliche, but that is what it is. And so those specific pressures that are related to COVID-19, the fact that you have to stay indoors for a lot of the time, you can't do the things that you usually did to de-stress. You can't go for a picnic. You can't go to the spa sometimes on full lockdown. You can't have a party with your friends because there are those fears of what if someone catches COVID, or what if I catch COVID and take it back to my friends and my family. Then there's the issue of people's economic standing as well. Am I still getting my income? There are some people who lost their jobs completely. Others had pay cuts. Others who are, as I said, in the informal sector have been unable to do the things they usually do to bring in that income. And all of those things are stressful, especially when you have someone else looking at you, expecting you to be the one who is providing for them. So sometimes, because of the depression that is then attached to that, and the anxiety that is attached to that, people then think that suicide is the only way out, unfortunately.
Okay, so to people who are watching us today, we need to tell them what they should do to take care of themselves. What measures do you think they should actually use for them to take care of themselves?
I think self-care. Okay, I think self-care is very important. So first and foremost, make sure that you are taking care of yourself well. You are very in tune with what you are feeling. You're very in tune with what is happening on the inside of you. So if you need to unplug from the world and just have me time where you are not connected to social media, you're not constantly checking out the statistics of the number of deaths or whatever it is, then do that. If you have a garden or something, you can go and sit outside. Just something that takes your mind off the things that you're actually facing. Touch with your loved ones as well. Most of us are lucky that we have access to phones where we can either call, you can send a text, or others can even use these video calling platforms to keep in touch with the people that they care about. So that as well is very important. And then I think the other thing that is already actually happening, which is really great, what I call another silver lining as well, is that communities have really come together in this time. You'll find that there's been a lot of, what can I call them? A lot of initiatives started by individuals or started by churches, as you mentioned earlier, Tawanda, where people are identifying needs within their communities, whether it's the church community, whether it is their community in terms of, I'm a Gweru resident, and I can see that within Mukoba, there are A, B, C, D issues. People are really coming together and saying, what can we do to help this person who is in need? And I found it quite surprising that, everyone's struggling as far as their income, or most people, as far as the income is concerned. But you still find people willing to actually give into those various causes within their communities. So that is pretty excellent. That for me is a sign that in one way or another, we've managed to get something good out of this entire situation, where we are now not necessarily just thinking of ourselves, but we're also looking at the next person and seeing what they're going through and trying to feed into their situation in a positive way.
Thank you so much. Welcome, Dr.
Hello.
Yes, hello. Can you introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Dr. Muromo from the Media Department, Midland State University in Gweru.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Muromo. You're going to give us some media reports on suicide. What are the prevalence rate on those media reports?
Okay, what is actually happening is suicide and COVID-19 is becoming prevalent these days, maybe as a result of people not having a lot of things to do. Again, the paper was mainly done during lockdown. So people in their homes, they had nothing to do to get income. So at the end of the day, anything that would be shocking to them would lead to suicides. So there are several articles that have been written in line with this COVID-19. Okay, there is an article that was written by Farai Ziva 2019, titled Shocking Suicide Statistics in Zimbabwe. And he noted associated with suicide are also mental health conditions such as depression, bipolar disorder, anxiety disorders, post-traumatic stress disorders, and mental health conditions that, unfortunately, due to our age-old cultural taboos, are not talked about sufficiently and openly in our communities. So this is an indication that the suicide is not only about COVID-19, but it is associated with other conditions, other mental health conditions, like someone is depressed, someone is bipolar disorder, they end up committing suicide, it being then related to COVID-19. Then we have an article from Health 24 titled Mental Health Effects of COVID-19 Pandemic Lockdown and Concerns over Suicide Risk. And in this article, it is noted isolation, job loss, fear, and anxiety are paid to be the perfect storm for suicide risk during the pandemic. Indications that the lockdown or COVID-19 brought about a lot of issues that led people to then commit suicide. Then, although the recorded cases of suicide in Zimbabwe since March 2020 are not directly linked to COVID-19, I am arguing in this paper that it is a result of the impact caused by the pandemic.
Okay, thank you so much. Also, in regard to our media, like our media platforms, are they actually giving rightful information in regarding to the suicide rates during the COVID-19? What's your view, and what should media house play?
You are breaking.
Okay, I was saying in regard to media coverage in those issues of suicide and COVID-19, what is your view? Are they doing justice, or there's need for improvement in terms of statistics?
I think there is need for more. The coverage is limited. I think there are isolated articles on this. I think more could be written in order to bring awareness to society that people are just not being able to defend themselves when it comes to these issues that then lead to them committing suicide.
Okay, thank you. In regard to media houses, like our newspapers, is there any like what should improve in regard to our media house? Like we are talking of those newspapers, Daily News, Herald. Are they doing justice in terms of taking statistics of COVID-19 related suicide cases?
I think something is being done, but more could be done. in order for people to know what is really happening. Because the isolated cases that I'm talking about indicate that there is something happening in society, but people are not told through the media houses what is happening. And this could be catered for through community media, like community newspapers, like community radio stations. At least they are within societies and they know what is happening, rather than just wait for the mainstream media to be picking these stories. Community media should be taking a role. That is what I think.
Okay, Dr. Madzire, do you have any questions for Dr. Moromo regarding those issues?
Maybe one or two of the isolated. Can she share one of the isolated cases that she is talking about that have actually been in the papers? Because I I haven't managed to come across anything where we talk about suicide in the public space as far as COVID-19 is concerned. So maybe that might be of use not just to myself, but the other viewers, if we be directed on where to find some of these articles that she is talking about.
Okay. There's an article by Bulawayo 24 News, which is German minister kills himself over coronavirus crisis worries. I'll just read the first paragraph. Thomas Kaefer, the finance minister of Germany's his state, killed himself apparently after becoming deeply worried with the economic fallout from the coronavirus. State Premier Volker Bofer said on Sunday. So I picked this story to indicate that it's not a thing that is confined to Zimbabwe, but it's a global issue where when people fail to cope with coronavirus, they may even find themselves trying to get away through committing suicide. There is a story by the Financial Gazette. Many hangs self over financial problems in lockdown by Simbarashe Mwandi Penda. And this was on 12 April 2020. I'll read. Due to the financial problems in the Zimbabwe lockdown, 25-year-old Bindura man committed suicide after a misunderstanding with his wife last week. So that's a local story. It talks about Mashonaland Central, and the story depicts one of the reasons why people who feel the impact of the coronavirus opt for death. It's like, for example, squandering the family savings with girlfriends is a sign of being irresponsible. So the man chose the easy way out, and that was through suicide. Another story, a man kills self after losing 1.2 US dollars to soldiers' corps, and this is by a staff reporter, Newsday, on 28 July 2020. The lead, Ekitungu is a man, Claude Tasukwa, reportedly committed suicide at the weekend after soldiers and police enforcing lockdown regulations reportedly swooped and robbed him of 1,200 US, the victim's family alleged. So these are some of the examples of stories which are being picked by the media.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. You actually give you highlight you highlight issues whereby men killed themselves. Why is it so? Why is it men are more vulnerable when it comes to suicide related to COVID-19?
I would know, but the stories I have here are all about men committing suicide over $50, a teenager himself over haircut. These are to do with men, maybe because they cannot really, what can I say? Women have got a way of dealing with issues, unlike maybe men. And as a result, the stories that are used in this paper portray more men killing themselves as a result of COVID-19 than women. I wouldn't know. Maybe you could give your own opinions. Why is it we have more men than women?
I think Dr. Madzire will help us on that one.
I think it just ties into what I was saying earlier. There's a lot of different ways we can speculate as to what exactly is happening. So it could be that men bottle things up and they don't want to talk about the things that they're facing, and it gets to a breaking point where it's lots of different small events or big events that have now come together, and at the end of the day, they're unable to cope with those pressures that have been building up over time. We could also assume that it's because men are actually successful at their attempts to commit suicide. Stats all across the board show that generally there are more unsuccessful suicide attempts by women than there are men. So when we're talking about stories around suicide and statistics around suicide, you might find that the rates reported around men are higher, and yet women attempt suicide more than men. So those are only just a few of the speculations that we could throw in the works to say why is it that these stories that exist are around men. Maybe one last one. It could be that as society we are almost fascinated in a weird way by this issue of men breaking down. So it's
Oh, it's
not as
great.
shocking for people to hear that became emotional and of a man committing suicide, it then to us seems very shocking because we view men as these strong people who don't break, they're not emotional, they don't cry, they just pick themselves up and get on with life. So maybe that may be the other reason, but as I said, these are all speculations on our part.
Okay, I'm privileged to you are both females today. So what should you do? Maybe females. What should females do to help men? You know, maybe you should do something. What is your view on that one?
Do you want our help though?
If you may allow me to read my conclusion here.
Yes.
Okay, the World Health Organization defines suicide as a deliberate act of killing oneself. In the advent of the pandemic, there are bound to be casualties, hence the need for the government and society to act now to prevent deaths of despair because of COVID-19. What is interesting to note is that all of the victims of suicide in the sample were men. Health Times on March 4, 2020 noted with concern the male suicide cases are skyrocketing in Zimbabwe. The magazine explained that this was because males are reserved in handling socio-economic issues, threatening their mental ability to cope with such. Maybe that is another reason why men would find themselves committing suicide, because they are reserved, they bolt everything inside, unlike women who just share. And what do they say? A problem shared is a problem half solved. So as a result, men end up committing suicide because everything is bottled up inside. Maybe it could be another reason.
Okay. Actually, I asked about what women should do to help their male counterparts. What should women do? Because we all both want to play some part here in terms of reducing the rate of suicide among males. What women should do?
Women should
For me, I think.
I'm saying what
Sorry, go
is
ahead, Doc.
okay. I was asking a question like what women should do to help their counterparts in trying to reduce suicide, because we find out women try or think about suicide more than men, but they don't end up committing suicide. So maybe you have some strategies that can actually help our viewers, our viewers here on the platform. What women should do exactly to help their counterparts?
Okay, I think women should continue to be caretakers. Women should teach their counterparts to be also taking care of the family and being very emotional. When you are emotional, it means you cry when you are supposed to cry, you laugh when you are supposed to laugh, and you deal with issues in a realistic way, other than just being confined to the role of being breadwinner. And every time you fail, you think you should not be failing. I think that's advice that I can give to our counterparts as women.
Dr. Mazire.
I think as women, we need to be more supportive. Not to say that women aren't supportive and we just go around bashing men, but sometimes we're also part of the problem, to be quite honest, where you're now questioning a man's manhood, if I can put it like that, for not being able to cope with these stresses. So as I said, we tend to have this idea of men as strong. They're not supposed to break. They're just supposed to be there and to be supportive. And so sometimes you find that there are men who don't even feel like they can open up to their partners because of the response that they're likely to get. You know, are some of the questions that women might ask. So maybe just as women being more supportive, acknowledging the fact that this person who is my significant other is also human. He also has emotions. He also can go through stressful times. He is in the very same situation that I am in, that I am failing to cope with. How can we support each other? How can I stop just looking at him and saying, you're the man, do something? What can we do together? It's a partnership. It's not just about one person. So what can we do together? How can I help you to solve the problems that we are facing as a family? I think that's one of the things for me that we can do as women.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Muromo, and thank you so much, Dr. Mazire. We've come to an end of our show, Suicide and COVID-19, and this is the end episodes of Suicide series. To our viewers, this is the end of our show, Suicide series. See you next month. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Mazire. Thank you so much, Dr. Muromo.
Thank you for having us, Tanda.
Dr. Muromo.
Thank you for having us and good day.
Thank you so much.
What's your understanding of parent-adolescent relationships?
Okay, parent-adolescent relationship, I think mainly is communication between a parent and a child. Communication is the basic between the relationship of a parent and a child. The parent have to understand any changes happening to this adolescent child.
You need to understand their language. You need to understand their opinion and their perspective towards things around the world. We have come to an end of our Suicide series. This is Step In.
Anything party, think Party Karate. And as Party Karate, we provide you with nothing but the best services that you can rely on. Leave all your party management and all your corporate events in our hands today. Our wide range of products include helium balloons, toys, candy gifts, jumping castles, candy floss, popcorn machines, stretch tents, and just to mention a few. Visit us today. Anything party, think Party Karate.